Upstairs, downstairs, part 1, production number 1702, take 1.
Whatever's that supposed to be, Ruby?
It's a comforter, Mrs. Bridges, for Edward.
More like suffocating than comforting, if you ask me. Listen, girl, you've got to count the number of stitches. Terrible losses again today, Mr. Hudson.
Aye, 102 officers dead and missing. Worse than Nerve Chapelle. Lord Wendover, Captain Mackintosh, our Scottish amateur weightlifting champion. Several officers of the Life Guard.
Pray for Captain James every night.
So do I, Mrs. Bridges.
Daisy, front door.
Ruby?
Well, if you ask me, we're getting beaten this time, and no mistake.
Mrs. Bridges, that is tantamount to defeatism. We're holding our own. Our firm grip on Hill 60. Many successful counterattacks.
Well, all I know is that every day this week you've moved that row of pins back. It doesn't look like victory to me.
A planned withdrawal to prepared positions isn't a defeat, Mrs. Bridges. It is a sound strategic move. Especially when you've got a salient like we have at Ypres.
It's that gas. It's not fair.
Oh, it's terrible. Terrible. God will descend on them for it.
It must smell awful. It's a wonder to me it didn't go off with a bang.
Oh, Ruby, it is not a common coal gas that the Germans are employing, but a chemical asphyxiant.
Well, whatever it is, God ought to punish them for it.
I think he will, Mrs. Bridges. I think he will. The Germans have forgotten one thing, one very important thing. The prevailing wind is west to east. And once we've got our gas, whoosh! The Hun will be hoist with his own petard, if I may use a military quotation by your greatest poet, Mrs. Bridges.
Jackson.
What is it, girl?
There's a telegraph boy at the door.
Well...
Oh, my Lord.
Telegram for Bellamy.
Yes, boy. Yes, thank you.
Any reply?
No. No. Madam, a telegram has arrived
The War Office.
from France, madam.
Well, thank you, Hudson. That'll be all. Hudson! Captain Bellamy. Captain Bellamy's coming home on leave today.
Oh, well, madam, that is good news. What time is he expected?
Army Post Office, Boulogne. Oh, it doesn't say.
We may presume the captain will be here in time for dinner, madam.
Oh, yes. Well, I hope so.
Ruby, go into the larder and fetch me out some sardines.
Oh, sardines, Mrs. Bridges, whatever for?
Sardines on toast. Captain James's favourite savoury, ever since he was a little mite.
Sardines, Mrs. Bridges, with Sir Geoffrey Dillon coming to dinner, and a very important general, so Mr. Bellamy informed me.
Important general. I don't care if it's Lord Kitchener himself. You'll have to lump it.
Mrs. Bridges! You'll never guess who it is.
G49202, Private Barnsley, on leave for the weekend. Hi, Daisy. Mrs. Bridges.
Welcome, Edward, welcome.
Hello, Ruby.
Captain James is coming home too.
Really? So you got a house full of heroes at the weekend, that's the war for you?
Well, I will say, Edward, you do look well.
You do look ever so well.
Ah, it's the delightful army cuisine, Mrs. Bridges. Here, do you know we marched from Colchester in Essex to our new camp at Cotford on Salisbury Plain in Wiltshire the other week?
Oh, that way.
Yeah.
Whoa, come and sit down. Take the weight off your feet.
Well, now, we've got a dinner party, but if you'd like to stay for supper, Edward, I'm sure you're welcome.
That's very kind of you, Miss Hudson.
Supper? He'll stay as long as he likes. His room's always ready for him.
Edward has a mother and father living in Walthamstow, Mrs. Bridges. I'm sure his parents will be
But
very
my
anxious
dad's
to
down
have...
at Folkestone building army camps, Miss Hudson, and my mum's at my Auntie Ivy's in Watford in case there's bombing.
Bombing? Whoever heard of London being bombed?
You just put your case in your room. There's always a welcome for you here.
You must remember, Mrs. Bridges, that Edward is no longer employed as a servant in this house.
No, he's not. He's serving his king and country. That's what he's doing. And God bless him for it.
Up to the dining room, Daisy. Begin to lay for dinner.
I'll give you a hand, Mr. Hudson.
No need for that, Edward.
We are short-handed, Mr. Hudson. He was only saying so this morning.
Indeed we are, Daisy. Rose left yesterday for Scotland with Mr. Gina.
So I can give you a hand in the dining room tonight?
Well, of course you can, Edward.
Oh, thanks. Well, I'll put my livery on then.
Livery? You'll wear the king's uniform, my boy. And if them upstairs isn't proud of you, I'll eat my boots.
Thanks, Mrs. Bridges.
And we're ever so glad to see you back, Edward. Aren't we, Miss Strudson?
Yes, we are, Edward.
Where's your case, love?
Oh, that's right.
Very nice to have you back, sir.
Thank you, Hudson. Anyone home?
Mrs. Bellavier's in the morning room, sir.
Oh, thank you, Hudson. I can hardly believe it.
Oh, you look tired.
Yes.
Would you like a drink?
Please. You got my telegram?
Yes. Don't send any more telegrams, James.
Why ever not?
People here have come to dread them lately.
Oh, God, I'm sorry. I didn't think.
How could you know?
Extraordinary. It's like coming home from school. All those people bustling about in the streets. Everything's so clean and shiny. Buses, motor cars, theatres. And umbrellas. I've forgotten what peculiar things umbrellas were.
Was it... What is it? Very horrible.
Horrible, yes, I suppose that's the right word. But it's enormously exciting as well. I mean, each time you go into action, it's a new adventure. It's hard to explain, but you're all keyed up with your own men and your friends all around you. Danger, it doesn't seem real. Like another world. How's father?
All right. Well, he's pretty well. He's on thousands of committees, but he's champing at the bit because he says he hasn't got a proper war job. There's a lot of plotting going on to topple the government and force a coalition. Georgina's in Scotland, staying with the Mackenzies for a dance. Rosie's gone to meet her.
Dance in Scotland. Extraordinary.
Father!
James! How splendid! What a lovely surprise!
I did try to get you at the house.
Oh, I've been all over the place today. Well, you're all in one piece?
Yes, you?
Yes, I'd very fit.
Good.
Well, we must make some plans. You couldn't have come back at a better time. Geoffrey Dillon and General Frankie Nesfield are coming to dine. Geoffrey's got himself well into the thick of it as Northcliffe's lawyer. And you know about Nesfield.
He has a certain reputation in the army.
Now, don't underestimate him. He's the power behind the throne of the War Office. And he's on our side.
Oh, I'm glad to hear that.
I mean politically. He'll be damn useful when we get back in, which won't be long now, by the look of things. There's a terrible stink over the naval losses at Gallipoli. Fisher and Winston are hardly talking to each other.
Well, talking of stink, I haven't had a bath for a very long time.
My dear boy,
2 weeks to be precise in a brewery and I'm all tears. Can't get out of these clothes. Oh, Edward. I'd forgotten you were in the army.
Yes, sir, Middlesex Regiment.
Jolly good. The diehards.
Yes, sir.
Do you know why they're called that?
Not exactly, sir.
Put your tray down, boy, while Captain James is talking to you.
It was one of those battles in the Peninsular War. Albuera, I think it was. And your colonel was leading the attack when he was mortally wounded. And as he lay on the ground dying, he raised himself up and he waved his hat and he shouted, "Die hard, 57th. Die hard." So you've got quite a reputation to live up to.
Yes, sir.
I'm just going up to change, Captain.
Oh, yes, sir, your bath is ready.
Thank you.
I am ashamed of you, Edward.
Why, Mr. Hudson?
Not even knowing how your regiment came by its name.
Thank you, Hudson. Will you tell Mrs. Bridges the sardines were delicious, much appreciated.
Yes, sir.
Nice to see your footman in uniform, Richard. Very patriotic.
But not too patriotic, I am happy to note.
What do you mean, Geoffrey?
You don't follow the royal example in banishing all alcoholic refreshments from your table.
Well, I'm glad I'm not the king sometimes, always having to set a good example. Need more than a war to make me sign the pledge.
Jane.
Well, some port, Geoffrey. Cigars. What division are you in, Captain Dudley?
Oh, 3rd Cavalry, General.
Hoping?
Yes.
Then you must have been in this last show heap. Very unpleasant, the gas.
Yes.
Typical treacherous hand trick.
Throwing the Hague Convention out of the window.
Thank you.
Well, inside the 4 walls of this room, it caused a pretty good panic back here.
So it was a pretty good panic out there, General. We were resting at Vlamertinghe. I was on the salient that day on a reconnaissance. Suddenly we saw thousands of these French African troops scooting across the field, shrieking their heads off. Horses, mules, every damn thing. Whole corps of them. I think the Boche was much taken by surprise as we were. The Canadians were splendid, though. Completely saved the day.
French always panic when anything goes wrong. Hysterical people.
Well, our gas is ready and better than theirs.
No, I don't think it'll have much effect on the war in the end.
Don't you?
Everybody in Britain's busy making gas masks, including Hazel.
Absolutely useless, I believe.
As usual, the soldiers have found their own solution. Don't lie down in the trenches. The stuff is heavier than air. It sinks. And I hope this won't put you off your port. The thing to do is to pee on a handkerchief and then tie it round your face.
Not much about that in the newspapers, General.
And don't blame the newspapers. Blame the censor. It's official policy to feed the public pap. If you want to know how the war's going, don't look at the headlines, look at the casualty lists.
What do the troops think of the newspapers?
Well, they just laugh. Ah, brave boys up at the front, all that stuff. I just happened to see tonight's newspaper report on our little show between Ypres and Hill 60 last week. German attack smashed. Successful counterattack drives back weakened enemy. Well, as you know, General, we were the ones who were smashed if anybody was. And they drove us back a good mile.
But surely there's nothing wrong with the men?
Ah, nothing at all. They're better than the Germans. Tougher, braver, better soldiers. But what remains of the professional British army is being squandered by a lot of amateurs who don't know their job.
Meaning who?
Oh, I don't mean the generals, sir. I mean the politicians. The people who are supposed to be running this war. They just don't seem to realise that it's a new kind of war. More like siege warfare than anything else. A war of barbed wire and machine guns. Artillery. Guns more than anything else.
We had the guns at Neuve-Chapelle.
We ran out of shells on the second day. Grenadiers lost 20 officers and 300 men and gained 200 yards.
Damn scandal. At least we printed Reppington's letter in the Times.
And what did Asquith say? There is no truth in the statement that our armies are being crippled by the government's failure to produce the necessary ammunition.
Damn lie.
He was probably drunk. As usual.
If I might give you an example, General. Last Thursday when the Germans attacked, they plastered us with shells. Heavies, mediums, everything they had. From 4 Ackerman until 7 when their infantry attacked. There was very little left of our trenches or our wire. And not one single British gun of any sort supported us. I think it was about 2:30 when the Blues made their counter-attack that one solitary howitzer started to fire. 1 6-inch Howe, obsolescent since the South African War. I saw it later when we were relieved. I also saw the battery commander sitting on a limber in tears. That's a fine way to win a war.
James, we all know about the shortcomings of the War Cabinet. That is why we Tory politicians are determined to replace Asquith with a government of all parties.
So I tell you this, gentlemen, if any politician, be he Liberal, Tory or whatever, went up anywhere near the front at the moment, he'd be torn limb from limb.
I can imagine how the men must feel, but it isn't just a question of negligence. The problems are colossal. We've got to get industry into full production.
Yes, well, if you'll excuse me, I only got...
Oh, of course, my dear boy, of course.
General.
Good night, James.
Good night, James.
Good night. That boy of yours, Richard's a real fizzer.
I'm glad you think so, General.
Absolutely first class, just the sort we want. I must remember to keep an eye on him.
Well, the government may not have provided any ammunition to blow up the Germans, but James has certainly provided us with plenty to blow up the government. Northcliffe will be delighted. Impressions of the Second Battle of Ypres. Eyewitness accounts by a gallant officer just back from the front. Splendid stuff.
I trust you're not going to quote him.
Oh, no, anonymous, of course. No names, no pack drill. Isn't that the correct military expression, General?
Well, we're at war with Germany, Sir Geoffrey, not the Liberal Party.
Geoffrey, what is important is not Northcliffe's campaign to put Mr. Asquith's head on a platter. I hope our motives are more patriotic than that. What we need is a more vigorous, courageous and efficient prosecution of the war. Now that means a Tory government or a coalition. And we must work to that end.
Well, I strongly advise Northcliffe to keep off Kitchener. He's the golden calf of the British public and can do no wrong.
No point in it, I agree. Simply pull down the circulation.
Oh, Geoffrey.
Oh, tell him to drag one of Halden's pro-German skeletons from the cupboard, if need be. The readers will lap that up.
Well, there may be a little likelihood of victory in Flanders, at least for the moment. But I can't help smelling victory in the offing at Westminster.
What's the matter?
Nothing.
How long is your leave?
2 weeks, 10 days. If there's a gale or two in the channel, I might be able to stretch it to 2 weeks.
Would you like to get out of London?
Yes, I think I would. Come on, let's go up to bed.
We can't. Not until the General's...
Why not? Just because my father chooses to ask a lot of his boring political cronies to dinner doesn't mean I can't take my wife to bed whenever I like.
On guard. That's it, come on, point up. You're not winkle picking. Right, Private Finch. Spot a bayonet practice, right. On a command of 2, you lunge at that stomach. Ready, 1, 2, a lunge and a scream. That's it. Twist it in the guts. Foot on the stomach. Go on, foot on the stomach. That's it. And withdraw neatly. They are dead as mutton. You know, our sergeant killed 3 at Lakato in as many minutes like that. Right, Private Finch. What have I told you? What's the golden rule?
4 inches of cold steels enough to kill any German overboard.
Right.
You can have another go, Edward.
You may not, Ruby. All the cold steel you'll ever need is waiting in the scullery for you to wash up. Look sharp now. Take that contraption off your head. Oh, she's so bleak at that girl. It is inconvenient enough, Edward, allowing Daisy an afternoon off without you unsettling the kitchen maid as well. Yes, Mr. Yes, well, mind your boat back by 6 o'clock. No later, mind. Let's see then. Polygon wood, Zillibiki. Zillibiki.
Extraordinary, this hate of the Germans. Does everyone hate them? I mean, ordinary people, not just the hysterical journalists.
Yes.
But why hate them?
Well, I thought you'd understand. Belgium? What about the atrocities?
Oh, yes. But you don't have to hate an enemy in order to kill him. I rather respect that Hun soldier.
Even when he uses gas?
That's not his fault. That's the fault of his leaders. I was talking to 2 German prisoners the other day, and they were genuinely horrified that they had been the first to use gas. I'm sorry. I don't know what's the matter with me. I had planned to be different. And somehow I don't feel I'm living in the real world here. I feel outside. Left behind in a silly sort of way. It's as though everyone was speaking a language that I knew, but didn't understand. Nothing has any flavour.
You're still in France?
Yes. Sorry.
Time for golf. Come on.
Mr. Woodstock.
So I believe, Ruby.
Oh, quit interfering, partner. What is it, Hudson?
Sir, Madam, Sir Geoffrey Dillon has called and wonders if you're at home.
No.
Yes. Please show him in, Hudson.
Very good, madam. Sir Geoffrey Dillon.
Oh, Geoffrey. Good evening. Good evening, Richard. Good evening, James, and my congratulations. Little bird has whispered in my ear that you've landed a plum job on the staff. Well done. Well done.
Thank you, Sir Geoffrey.
Geoffrey, do sit down. Thank you. Have a drink? Well, perhaps a little Scottish wine, as this is rather a special occasion.
No. What's so special about it?
Thank you. I've just come from Printing House Square. We've got them on the run at last. I have here a draft of tomorrow's leader in the Times. Geoffrey Dawson let me have a copy.
How does it read?
Like a death sentence on Asquith. Government incapable of fighting a war, hampering our brave soldiers, thanks to the obstinacy of the War Office in ordering shrapnel shells instead of high explosive. The government will never survive that kind of attack.
If you'll excuse me, I'm going away in the morning. I have a lot to do.
James?
I'm sorry. I had to get out before I hit the fellow.
Yes, but did you mean... Are you really going away in the morning?
Yes. Yes, I suddenly realised. I have to get away from here, anywhere away from this muck, or I'll go mad.
Would you like me to go with you?
No, I'd rather go on my own if you don't mind.
No, of course not.
You do understand?
Yes. I do understand.
What with this shell business and the Gallipoli disaster?
Yes, we're lucky. The Gallipoli thing going wrong just at the right moment. Jackie Fisher is likely to resign, I'm told.
Really?
Your boy's story couldn't have come at a better moment. Northcliffe's already written to French, you know, urging him to find some way of making the shell shortage public. But, of course, as Commander-in-Chief, he has to be a little wary.
Surely our troops in France can make it public themselves.
They don't all have the same opportunities that James did, you know.
what's the matter? Hey, what is it then?
You're not drunk, are you?
Of course I'm not.
I'm going to spend the night with you.
Yeah. Yeah, they'll skin you alive if they catch you.
Well, they won't. It's quite safe with Rose being away. And, well, we might not see each other again for ages.
Daisy, I've been thinking.
What?
Well, you know, perhaps Captain James was right, you know. Perhaps I oughtn't have asked you to marry me. I mean, well, it's not really fair. I mean, I haven't got any money put away, and I'm bound more or less to get wounded or something the way this war's going, and... Well, if you was to have a baby, they'd chuck you out of here sharp, no matter what they say now.
Well, that's my business, isn't it? I mean, I can look after myself and the baby too, if necessary. Oh, come on, Eddie, cheer up. You've asked me to marry you, and I've said yes, and I've got a ring to prove it. Or anything else, it would be a breach of promise. Now move over, I'm freezing.
Oh, you are cold. Daisy?
Hmm?
Have you, well, you know, have you ever done it before?
Leave off? Of course I haven't. But I know all about it. 6 in a room in Hoxton or nothing. No doubt you're highly experienced, what with all them country house weekends and parties and foreign maids and that.
Oh, that was just talk. You know, it was just jokes. I've never done it either, Days.
Haven't you? I'm never so glad. It'll be the first time for both of us.